Hey guys, come on in, come on in. It is Tuesday night, and you know what that means. It is time for some education regarding SCW. Come on in, come on in. Come on in, everybody. We've got a great topic tonight. We have a great panel. My name is Jeff Howard. I am honored to be here tonight. Sarah is out and about, not sure where, but she asked me to step in, and I gladly said yes when I found out what the topic was and who I was talking to. Amazing topic tonight, guys. Before we start, like always, before I do my introductions, I want us to go over the Zoom real quick. Right now, you all are muted just because if you were talking, it'd be really kind of crazy in here. Your cameras are all off because it can be distraction. Security, that's if somebody gets out of control, Amber. Participants, we actually have 200 people signed up tonight. But we'll probably get about, by the end of the day, probably about 50, I think, maybe. And what will happen is, of course, it'll be recorded and sent out so people can watch it later. But what I care most about is the chat button. If you guys could open up that chat button and drag it to the side. And I'm going to have I want everybody that's listening in to type in where you're from. Even my panel, let them know where you're from. Ooh, spelt mine wrong. Where are you guys from at home, guys? Nothing. Oh, Katrina. Oh, you're from Idaho. We know that. Good. Good. New Hampshire, Charlotte, Sacramento. I'm from Kentucky, Chicago. Donna from Alabama, Atlanta. Wow. From all over. Yay. Good, good, good. Well, I'm glad you guys are here. Apparently, this is a topic that we're all needing. Another California. Awesome. Well, tonight's topic, I just want to dive right in because we don't have a lot of time and there's a lot to cover. Tonight's topic is the webinar title is weight loss tips when working from home. With remote working being more common than ever, many individuals are even more sedentary than ever. Join our panel of experts as they cover some of the best weight loss and mobility tips to battle with this ideal lifestyle. And this is a pandemic. People are still working from home, so this is something we need to address. But before we start, I'm going to do a little introductions. I have Amber Toole, who's an ACE certified personal trainer with a Bachelor's of Science degree in physical education and health from Georgia Southern University. I'm sorry. She has 30 years of experience in the fitness industry and loves to share experience with other fitness professionals. It is her life mission to spread the truth about fitness and nutrition through education. She is the owner of The Training Tool, a fitness and nutrition studio in Ocala, Florida, and an SCW educator and Fit Pro mentor. Sorry, Amber, I butchered that. Katrina, hopefully.
Ocala.
Bo is a second-generation Pilates instructor, NCPT PMA certified, owner of Personalized Pilates in Scottsdale, Arizona, and author of Nutritional Pilates. Katrina was trained by Lolita San Miguel and then taught alongside her as her anatomy teacher. She also trains instructors worldwide with her innovative online Pilates Freedom program. Katrina is board certified in holistic nutrition, trained to read functional labs, has 7 kids, and lives in a small farm in Idaho. 7 kids. God bless.
7.
To type in how they can get a hold of you, I'd appreciate it. And last but definitely not least, we have Greg Johnson, is a fitness studio owner and has 20 years of experience in fitness. He holds a BS in fitness and rehabilitation from Plymouth State College, with minors in health and wellness and a master's in kinesiology from CALU, with concentrations in performance enhancement and injury prevention. Greg holds certifications as a certified strength and conditioning specialist through the NSCA, performance enhancement specialist through NASM. That's their panel. My name is Jeff Howard. Most of you know me. If not, I've been around the block a couple of times. I have a degree in kinesiology from the University of Texas. I have a minor in nutrition. I'm in charge of the Group X certification, the Aqua certification, the Yoga certification, and the Pilates certification for SCW. And I am presently on Housewives of Salt Lake City, on Bravo. I'm training Meredith Marks. It's a gig. Don't ask me about it. It's stupid. All right. We're going to start with our first question. Are you ready? This was a new word to me. I'd never heard this before, and I think it's interesting. With working from home, making clients so sedentary, what are some of the go-to ways to increase a client's NEAT? N-E-A-T. And before we start, let's kind of like figure out what NEAT is. Greg, tell them what NEAT is in case they don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you said, NEAT. NEAT stands for non-exercise activity thermogenics. So what that is it's the calories that you're burning throughout the day outside of workout, so the non-exercise. So from getting up and walking around to doing your normal day-to-day things, those are the calories that you burn throughout the day.
Awesome, awesome. And so, when I first started reading about NEAT, I was like this, I don't understand. This is like what our parents did. How did we make it more modernized for today's times? Why is it more prevalent now, Amber?
Well, I think one thing is wearing the smart watches that, tap us when we need to stand up for the hour, or people started getting into, I got to get those 10,000 steps in. So instead of looking at, what's my workout for the day, we know that we need more movement throughout the day. So all these little tips we give our clients, like take the stairs instead of the elevator and park your car further away. Now we need to remind them while they're at home and seated. Sitting is the new smoking. This is not good for our health. So getting up and moving around all throughout the day is perfect for our bodies and really helps us to keep that blood flowing and keep our NEAT calorie burn up a little bit more.
I love that. What are some of the tips you give your clients, Katrina, regarding the NEAT principle for during the day? So
it's really important that they just start to have more movement infused into their day. And while they're trying to figure out what that means when they're trying to get all their desk work done, one of the things that I recommend is to, put it on their smartphone and just have some alarms go off so that they can remind themselves to, oh, I should get up. I've been sitting for 4 hours now. That is too long. I also recommend getting things like a mini trampoline or other small equipment where they can be exercising while they're on calls. If they're on calls, like you guys are listening right now, to be bouncing or getting some extra push-ups in or something while they're doing that, just to get more movement in during the day. Those are really just simple things. Just educating them about, different stretches they can do, just to take a break while they are exercising, while they're doing their sitting things, so that they're not just stagnant in their posture of in front of the computer.
I love that. How about you, Greg? How are you incorporating with your people at home?
Yeah, I think, one thing that you mentioned earlier was like, what did our parents do? Is the reality, we live in a different time. Our parents and grandparents didn't have to really think about this. So that's why NEAT seems like a newer term. The problem is we sit way too much. So a lot of times it's just getting people to understand, like when Amber talked about the 10,000 steps and things like that, those are old traditional foundational basics. So now the basic is getting 2,000 to 3,000 steps a day. So usually it's just one of those, anything you can to just get back to that 10,000 steps a day, whether it's going out for a walk in the morning before you ever step foot on your desk, taking a break at lunch, going outside, like making sure you're getting out of the house for so many reasons, not just physical, but mental. Get out of the house, especially if you've been stuck there for so long. So it's just moving however you need to just throughout the day. Just don't get stuck all day behind the desk.
So, the problem with the NEAT principle that I feel that people are, let's say they do a good workout. They come to all of our studios and they do a class, and then they get home and they're tired. So they're like, okay, I'm not going to walk the dog tonight. Mm-hmm. That is the pitfall of what can happen if they just go on this theory. You have to still incorporate movement along with your workout. Do you agree with that, Greg?
Yes. First of all, shame on you for not walking your dog. You should walk him anyway. But yeah, I think remember, the NEAT is your basic 10,000 steps or a little bit more. Like ideally, we encourage people to shoot for more. The NEAT is getting you back to your normal day-to-day activity. When we go to the gym or to the studios, that's the bread and butter. That's the strength training. That's the Pilates. That's the core strength. That's the mobility. Like the getting up throughout the day is just the general calorie burn compared to what you're not burning, whether it's through nutrition or anything else. If you go to the gym, let's say 3 times a week, but you're spending the entire rest of your day, the other 23 hours completely sedentary, you just can't make that up in an hour in the gym.
I love that. I love it. Do you want to add anything to that, Amber? Or
yeah, the research is showing more and more, Jeff, that you've got to get the movement sporadically interspersed throughout the day, not just the gym workout. So both of them are important, like Greg was saying. They're completely different, but you need both. You want it all.
So then I'm going to play the devil's advocate, Amber. So a lot of times I have clients that they're just overwhelmed. They're back at work or they're back at the office and they're sitting there all day and they've had a rough day because they're not used to it. They're out of the sync of it and they don't want to come to the gym and they don't want to do any movement. Do you have any cueing tips or anything that you can help to motivate them then to maybe take that extra step or get them moving?
Yes. So I always encourage people to start small. If you can just give me 5 minutes, if you can get up 5 minutes earlier, if you can get up at your lunch break and maybe just walk some laps around your house, if you can do some stretching at night on the floor while you're watching TV, if I can just get them to think in terms of small little chunks of time, that helps to take some of that overwhelm away. Because if you take someone who is overwhelmed and you're like, well, you need to do an hour workout and I need you to hit 12,000 steps every day and do your mobility work, they're going to be like, oh my gosh, how am I going to fit this in? But what we know, all of us, what we know is if we can get them moving just a little bit, they start to feel better. They start to move better. Some of those aches and pains go away. So meet them where they are, help them to not be overwhelmed, and just give them little tasks to do throughout the day. Like what Katrina said, intersperse it throughout the day and just tell them, hey, can you give me 3 to 5 minutes? Once they start doing that, it's going to trigger them to want to do it more because they know it makes them feel better.
I love that. Do you want to add anything to that, Katrina?
Yeah, I love that. What Amber was saying is spot on. I like to remind them exactly what she was talking about. Like, remember how you feel after your workout when you're laying in bed and you don't want to get up and you just want to hit the snooze and go back to sleep, because you're going to feel better every time. It always happens. And those neurotransmitters that you stimulate up, it's really important. I usually also, if they're having that much trouble, want to talk with them about, like, let's look at some of those hormones and see, is there a reason why you're feeling so sluggish and you have no energy? Because that's not a normal state. And we want to make sure that you're feeling optimal. And that's important to address as well.
I love that. Greg?
Yeah, both nailed it. I agree with both that. The big thing is meeting them where they're at, like Amber said, and there's a lot else to be said. Like, not only physically are we kind of like sitting a lot more. Like, I own a gym and I gained weight over COVID. It's just one of those things. Like, so trying to get back into it is really hard for a lot of people. So there's definitely a mental aspect to it. It's understanding where they are, where they're willing to kind of negotiate and get to that point. It could be just if people are not going to wake up early, that's fine. We just got to find some time throughout the day to get them up and get them moving. So it really is, what are you willing to give me? We'll start with that. My big thing is if you're stuck at home and you don't have access to a gym, it's like, have your space available. The problem is it's really hard, myself included, to work out at home, because once I started workout, all of a sudden I go, I got to run and do this. Let me do the laundry real quick. Let me clean this real quick. So kind of having that space available, that when you go there, it's meant, whether it's just for your mobility or for a body weight workout or just something to step away from the desk. And that just kind of helps. And it could be 5 minutes and it could be 50. It just depends on the person and where they're at the time.
I love that. Before we move on to another topic, I want to talk about the T of NEAT, which is can you explain what actually that is? The thermic, what is it, Greg?
Thermogenic.
What does that mean?
Non-exercise activity thermogenics. So basically it's your general calorie burn throughout the day. So you always hear terms like resting metabolic rate and basal metabolic rate. Those are the calories you burn either doing nothing or doing your normal day-to-day activity. So that's the thermogenics effect. That's what basically the calorie burn that you throughout the day. So the more you do, the more your heart rate increases, the more you move, the more things happen, the more you tend to burn throughout the day. So that's what we're trying to build on just a day-to-day thing, is slowly increase your metabolic rate throughout the day.
Love that. And Katrina, you had mentioned something about hormones. And what is your basic, because that can be just the basic needs aren't being met, whether it be sleep, diet, whatever. But how do you confront that, or how do you figure that out?
Well, in my practice, I run labs. So like for this, with the thermogenesis we're talking about, I'm going to want to look at their thyroid, and I want to look at all the hormones to see the whole breakdown of what's going on, not just the TSH, because there's this complicated, beautiful dance of how the body detects the levels of the hormones and they turn them on and activate them and everything. So where the breakdown in that is incredibly important. And it's very, very common, especially with women, especially postpartum. So many sluggish thyroids, so much Hashimoto's, and that's just going to, wipe them out. They're going to be losing hair. They're going to be tired as all get out. And that thermogenesis is going to go down regardless of how many steps they take.
I agree with that. I agree. Amber, do you want to add anything?
Well, a little bit, and Katrina is more the expert on the hormones, but I think that that is an important thing to look at. And you made a little comment there about their sleeping and their stress level. And that's another thing. When you think about what we've been through over the past 2 years, it was highly stressful. So that certainly has affected people's hormones. And I think that in my side, where I could deal with helping someone, release their stress in a positive way, that's something that we need to incorporate, I feel, as well in our coaching with our clients, because especially if they're still at home and they're still working from home, they may still have that, that high stress level from just everything that's happened. And we need to talk to them about that and work on positively getting those stress levels down, which we know exercise does it, which we know more movement will do it, but also looking at things like yoga or deep breathing or journaling or something to help them release that excess stress that's kind of been hanging on for the past 2.5 years.
I love that. It's funny, I don't know about you guys at home and my panel, but the number of clients that I have that went on Lexapro and things that help them navigate through situation, and I don't think they realize how that changes also their hormones, and it changes the metabolism and it slows things down. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing to be on, but I think that we also have to take that into account sometimes when they have these goals or these things. I mean, it's just something that happened during the pandemic as well. I just think we need to be aware of it. But let's move on. What are some of your favorite fat burning workouts? What are some of your favorite fat burning workouts? Greg?
I'm a little bit biased. Being a strength and conditioning specialist and been around the weight room a lot. Like, I'm always going to be a big fan of strength training. I think strength training in general, the building muscle, or more importantly, the ability to prevent loss of muscle, goes a long way. So whether it's general strength workouts or body weight workouts, something to involve trying to get your muscle tone back, especially, again, a lot of us didn't have access to gyms over the last couple of years. And whether they gained or lost weight, if you haven't been strength training, most likely you've lost a little bit of muscle. So getting that back helps. Again, that's probably one of the few ways to actually increase your resting metabolic rate, is getting more muscle tone on you. And that will continue to help burn day in, day out.
I love that. And what is some of your favorite stuff, Amber? What are you loving for fat burning workouts? What do you love?
Well, the first thing that I want to say is that when it comes to fat loss, nutrition is one of your biggest drivers for that. So as a nutrition coach, we work a little bit on that side as well. But on the workout side, I am right with Greg. I'm really big on maintaining and building muscle mass because that is important. It does raise our metabolic rate. And even though it's slight, it's just a little bit more, it's still enough that it can make a difference for a lot of people. So that strength training is something that we focus on from the get-go with the majority of our clients. And then if it's appropriate for the client, I do like to sprinkle in some, like only 1 to 2 HIIT training sessions per week. And again, that's if it's okay for the client. That's where that specialization of coaching comes in. It depends on the person. So it's not straight across the board. But strength training, unless they are in a special situation, I work on that with everybody because that building that muscle mass makes a huge difference.
I love that. Katrina, what about you? What workouts do you like for weight loss and fat?
Yeah, well, I'll take a little different approach. So workouts are great for building muscles. They help increase the dopamine levels and they lube up the joints, increase your flexibility, all that stuff. But to actually burn fat, that's a hormone thing. That's going to be affected most by the body's reaction to the amount of carbs that they eat and how much insulin they then produce there. And the thing that people don't talk about a lot is what insulin does. So, we all know that insulin is going to, take the glucose and the blood sugar and put it in the cells. But it does more than that. It's sending out a signal to the entire body to not release any fat from the cells. And when I found that out, I got kind of mad because that's not talked about. And that's really huge. If you follow the traditional guidelines of eat every 2 or 3 hours and eat lots of carbs and all this stuff, that's like the recipe to not lose weight. So while I totally agree with what they're saying, exercise can be helpful, the big elephant in the room is that they've got to get the carbs down and get the insulin down with like a low insulin diet. Now, in terms of exercise, personally, my favorite thing would be a nice kind of natural interval training that's going to occur with an advanced, Pilates reformer workout or something. That's, my personal favorite.
I love that. And we all know in this room that with change, you get change. Your body's this beautiful machine that adapts so readily. So everything my panel is saying, you want to incorporate all of it. I'm with the panel as well. I do a class that's called Tabata Strength, and it's just using a body bar, and it's a timed workout, but it's weight training basically. And they're burning a lot of calories in it, but they're not doing HIIT all the time. I'm a HIIT king. I love HIIT. With variety, you have variety. But I also love Pilates. I also love yoga. I love Tai Chi. With change, you get change. And I think that we have to also look at the full picture of the body, and that when we do things, that we do it, that everything gets hit accordingly. I love that. I love what you're saying, you guys. I think you're right on point with it. But now we're talking a little bit more about food and diet, because let's be honest with you, they're moving, they're not moving, but what they're putting in their mouths is a huge part of the component that really is. And a lot of times, our clients are doing deficits. They're not eating enough. And our job then is to guide them along that way. So what are some of the tools, Greg, you help people with regarding nutrition and that variable?
Yeah, I think nutrition is a real battle. There's a lot of misinformation out there, and it's constantly being thrown at us to either sell a book or something like that, or like certain TV shows are promoting certain things. But I always start at really, really foundational with my clients. I think the number one thing that I try to get them to do is understand water intake and hydration. Like all of us sitting too much, I think a lot of us live in a dehydrated state. My general rule of thumb for most people is half your body weight in ounces a day. So if I weigh 200 pounds, I'm going to try to drink about 100 ounces of water a day. Now, if you just heard that and you were like, that is way too much water, that doesn't mean you need to start there. It might just mean you need to slowly start increasing your water intake, because that's pretty typical. Like, everything runs better when it's hydrated. The muscles, the cells, the skin, brain, every cell works better when it's hydrated. So my number one is hydration. And my number two is just, certain things that are healthy and certain things that are unhealthy, and start trying to make this wholesale change to your diet. Let's just start with some simple things that we can kind of moderate in and out of your diet, and we'll start from there. And it's a constantly changing process.
What are some of the examples though, Greg?
I would say I have a lot of clients that they want to have a glass of alcohol at night or on the weekend, or we have a lot of type A clients that they have to bring out clients for social gatherings. So I'm not going to tell them like, hey, you need to give up alcohol or else I'm not going to train you. Or I'm a big fan of chocolate cake. I'm going to have a piece of chocolate cake. I just know I can't eat that every day. So it's moderation. If we can kind of cut down the alcohol content, if we can, hey, let's save the piece of cake to like a special occasion type of thing. So it's moderation. It's meeting people where they're at and negotiating what are you willing to do. And if it doesn't put them in that calorie deficit or make the adjustments in their hormones that Katrina's talking about, then we need to kind of circle back and have that conversation again.
I love that. And Amber, what about you? What nutrition advice do you give your clients to help them reach their goals?
Yes. So with nutrition, a lot of what I work with my clients is the basics. And I stand very strongly against fad diets and really try to get people to leave that stuff in the dust. And let's look at the basics that you're getting in your lean protein, which we know also helps with building that muscle mass. Most people aren't eating enough fruits and vegetables, and not getting enough fiber from things like whole grains and the fruits and vegetables as well. And so if I can get them to shift and start to look at what can I add to my diet that's going to increase my health, that's really what I want them to focus on. Let's get away from looking at what you weigh on the scale and focus more about increasing your health. Because when you focus on more of those whole foods and eating those types of foods and getting them into your diet, it is going to increase your health. And that's really what we should be going for.
I love that. I love that. Katrina?
All right, so I think I totally agree with Amber and Greg, and I'm hungry just listening to Greg about the chocolate cake. So I'm thinking about this, and for me, it's really about education. When the clients fully understand the implications of the choices they're making and what it's actually doing to their body, the body is incredibly resilient, and it's going to take a lot of hits before it starts to go down the path of chronic disease. And I want people to turn around before they get to the place. I myself have already dealt with cancer and addressed it 100% naturally, successfully. And I want to share that passion because I don't want other people to have to deal with that. And the things that I have learned through that process, I want to pass on so that other people can be spared that. And so tomorrow is my birthday, and I want that chocolate cake that Greg's talking about. But I know that that chocolate cake is going to have sugar in it. And sugar actually depletes your body of nutrients in order to digest it. And it's not worth it to me. Even if it's my birthday, I don't want it. And so I really want to focus with my clients on swap outs. So what are your things? What's your chocolate cake? So I have a chocolate cake recipe that I will be having tomorrow, my birthday, that honestly, I think it's just as good, and it doesn't spike my insulin up. And that way, so when my clients are talking to me, I want to problem solve, like, okay, what are your things? I have this one client that is gummy bears. So I'm like, okay, we can totally make gummy bears. That is easy. And you can even, there's ones that you can buy that are clean. And, let's problem solve where the issue is so that you can be successful and really know what your triggers are.
I love that. I think that happy birthday.
Oh, thank you.
Happy birthday. But I'm a firm believer in everything that my panel is saying. I agree that we have to meet them where they're at. Sometimes we give them this cookie cutter, but it doesn't fit their lifestyle, and they're never going to be successful because those are the people that normally do the fad diets. They tell me what to eat, cook it for me, and that's just not going to always work because you can't sustain it. And so I think it's smarter to look at what their lifestyle is and what they're doing, and then going about it that way. I think that, like Greg says, it's simple things like saying if you have a sandwich, have one condiment, whether it be cheese, butter, mayo, whatever. That small change will trigger a change. My clients are just like all of yours. They want to drink at night. That's fine, but then we can make a deal with them. How about, 2 nights a week you drink from now on? And so then you plan your week accordingly. And that, once again, would be a deficit. And it's the small things. We all know this in this room. At nighttime is when we crave sweets. Why do we crave sweets at night, kids? Because we're tired. We're supposed to go to bed. But you want a sugar high cake because guess what? You're tired. Always try waters first. When you're hungry or you think you're hungry, drink water. Like everybody's saying about hydration, I'm not a big one that's going to walk around with a tub of water. That's just not my deal. But I also know that I'm needing water if I'm feeling tired or if I'm feeling hungry or if I'm feeling just anything that my body's saying, I know I need it. And I always say to everybody, it's basically what you do for a child. If they get enough sleep and if they're fed and they're dry, they're happy. And it's kind of the same for all of us. If we meet those basic needs, we're going to get what we need to get done. You know what I mean? So let's just keep that in mind. But let's be honest with this. We've all had those clients that have said, you give them the spiel, you give them the rules, and it's just too much for them. It's too much. Or they use the term, I did something bad, and they lay it on you. I want to know, first of all, when your client that comes to you and it's just like, I just can't do that. It's just too much for me. What kind of role playing do you do? What do you tell them? Let's start with you, Greg. What do you tell a client that does that? How do you get them to change that?
I think the biggest thing is, I think we've all said this a couple of times, but part of it's an education process. And hopefully we've been talking about certain things the whole way. So when that comes up, it's really about, okay, the only workout that's going to, the workout program that's going to work, or the only diet that's going to work is the one that they are actually willing to follow. So like they both said, if we give them 1,000 things, you might as well not give them anything. So I think the big thing is small, sustainable changes. And again, fine, you had the chocolate cake, you had the glass of whiskey. Cool, I get it. All right, now can we make sure that doesn't happen all the time? So it's a constant education process. And it's always one of those, what are you willing to give me at the time? Work is shifted, everyone's back to school. What worked for them last month may not work for them this month. And all of a sudden they start falling off their good habits. So the big thing is developing a routine, not being upset at yourself if you go out to dinner with friends and have one too many calories or one too many drinks. It's not that big a deal at the end of the day. Me personally, I've been in a point in the past where I was depleting way too many calories, and my friends didn't even want to hang out with me because I was counting calories everywhere we went, and it wasn't very fun. And I realized that's not sustainable, not only for me but also for most of my friendships. So it's finding people where they're at, and also understanding if that conversation hasn't come up in a while, you may want to check in with your clients because they've probably been thinking it. So it's like constantly getting back into the understanding of like, this is an ebb and flow. Like what works for you now may not work for you a month from now. And it's making sure they understand that.
I love that. Would you like to add anything to that, Katrina?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Greg's right on. I like to start to dialogue with them and try to get to the root of why did it happen? Like, let's not judge. It's not, you're not a bad person because you did that. Like something was tempting you. There was some kind of trigger, like you were saying, Jeff, of like, they're tired. Okay, so maybe you didn't get enough fat at at dinner time. Maybe you weren't eating satiating foods. Was there some kind of stress that caused you to have that, whiskey or whatever it is? What's going on? Because when you get to that real discussion of what's really driving that, then they can start to replicate that later when you're not with them and start to make better choices of, oh, you know what? I'm just really tired. Maybe there's a better choice I can make. We talked about this instead. And that's the more sustainable. I want them to have that power where they can do it for themselves. And then I'm out of a job. That's what I want.
I love that. Amber, how about you?
I love that too, Katrina. Empowering our clients and educating them so that they understand. And even if I'm not around, they know what they need to do. And so I think that is so important. And I agree, the education and the empowerment and just helping them to understand, because there is so much misinformation out there, and also taking away this good versus bad. Oh, I did bad. I have more clients come to me and say, you're going to be mad at me. And I'm like, why would I be mad at you? No, I want you to talk to me like Katrina said. And let's look at the situation. And then let's say, okay, this isn't a bad thing. Oh, you went out to eat with your friends? Well, great. I hope you had a good time. That's not bad. I'm not mad at you. But what happens is you're going to wake up the next day and you're going to fix your healthy breakfast that you normally eat, and it's no big deal. So I love that if we can keep our mind going and coaching our clients on their mindset, getting them out of that mindset of there's a good and a bad, because there's not, there's a place for everything. Education and empowerment. I think those are great terms that we can take along with us and work on with all of our clients.
And remember, the people that are working from home, it's setting yourself up for not failing, taking that time to prepare your meals or have a plan so you know where you're going with it. Every day I train someone, I'm always like this, what are you having for lunch? I make them check in, just ask them what is going on. I had a client today say, you got to be good. You got to check on me this week because I know I've kind of fallen off the rails. And for me, it's so funny with women. I'm always like this, where are you with your cycle? Because I'm close enough that I can ask them, because it goes back to the hormone thing. The cycles with these younger people is really throwing their bodies off. And don't forget that the hormone things, those bodies, they don't want to be leaner. They want to be where they're at. They want to stay where they're at. And so once we do that loss, we've got to keep them there for a while. And then they have to really have a lot of chocolate cake to mess it up. So let's just ask that rule. Okay, so for me, my rule of thumb is I'm like, if you want to get to our weight loss, get to where we want to go, we need to keep it there for about 6 weeks. And then we can start bringing things in that you feel are naughty or whatever. What do you like to tell people, Katrina?
In terms of how long afterwards?
Like, well, let's say they reach a goal. They're always like this, I want 5 pounds more, I want 10 pounds more. And you're like, okay, fine, we get there. But then they fall off immediately, and it's a yo-yo, but they have to sustain it. And you know more about the hormone levels, even more so it messes with people big time, because it doesn't really the hormones don't want to allow them to be at that weight loss. They have to work harder.
I'll talk to them about it, because a lot of times if they've got some blood sugar dysregulation and some more baseline health issues underlying why their body is pushing them up, if they've got those high toxin levels, they're going to bounce back. And it's not a willpower thing. It's not a you ate lots of bad food thing. It's their body is protecting them from what the toxins or, their blood sugar dysregulation. And so that has to be addressed. So to me, if we've gotten them down to their ideal weight and they can't maintain it, there's something else that we haven't dug into that we need to dig in. So I want to take the shame away from that. It's not willpower. It's not just you're a bad kid, you're eating the wrong foods, all that kind of stuff. There's other things going on that I think need to be dug into.
I love that. Would either of you like to add anything, Amber or Greg? Or
Yes, I will, because when it comes to when you're working with someone on weight loss, there's some shifts that have to happen. Number one, and this is where I go back to where I coach people on work on your health, not working for a number on the scale. You have to understand that what you're doing, you're going to have to do for the rest of your life. So that's where it should be, focused on health. And you've got to change your mindset. You've got to change your people, places, and things almost, because if you used to, go out every weekend, have pizza and drink with your friends, and you want to live a healthier lifestyle, you can't necessarily do that every single weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So there's got to be a mindset shift, and we have to work on that. And you also have to understand that this is now your consistent way of life. This is a lifestyle. It's not just a diet. It's not just a 6-week plan. It is, this is my new healthy Amber. This is my persona. Now this is who I am and who I have to show up and be every day and consistently do the things that are increasing my health. Otherwise, you are going to shift and go back and fall off the wagon and find, people struggle with feeling shameful because they couldn't do it. So working on that mindset and getting that shift to understand that this is a new you and you have to be this new person if you want to live that healthy lifestyle.
I love that. Greg, do you got anything to add?
Not a lot. They've kind of said exactly what I would be thinking, but maintenance and sustainability goes a long way. And the reality is, and it is good that we're kind of talking about the hormone thing because it's very new to a lot of people. If you're working with a trainer, whether they be male or female, it is okay to talk to them about your cycle. It's completely understandable. And it does matter for the trainers to understand how to do that. B, even though we personally here don't do hormone panels or blood panels, those are always good things to have, especially if you are working with someone who understands them. Because even men's hormones change over time. And there are things that you can do, ebb and flow, to make things better or worse. So it's again, it goes back to like a specific program or a specific diet. If you do it right and you get to your goals, like that means it may have to change. It won't continuously work forever. If I help someone lose a little bit of weight but gain lean mass, they may be able to eat more. I have several clients that I need to encourage to eat more, and even though they're eating more, they're still able to drop a little bit of weight. And that's really hard to get through your head. Like, hey, I know this sounds silly, but I need you to eat a little bit more. And until they actually experience that, like it doesn't make any sense to them. And so I think like even fitness professionals will go through that. Like, geez, why are my workouts horrible right now? Or I'm a big fan of numbers, like understanding the hormones, understanding percent body fat. And as you change, so does everything else. So if you can, maintenance and sustainability is important. If you can't maintain it, you can't sustain it, then things need to change, kind of like Katrina originally said.
I love this. Okay. So how can we combat some of the biggest problems facing people at home? How can we combat some of the biggest problems facing people at home, which is stress eating, boredom, still worried about the gym, etc. So how can we combat some of the biggest problems facing people at home with stress eating, boredom, still worried about the gym and all that good stuff? How do you combat that, Amber?
So I just thinking on somebody working at home and maybe not getting out. One thing that taking a little, page out of Katrina's notebook there, setting an alarm, but along with that, having set eating times. So you're not just sitting at your desk, like snacking all day, you got popcorn and then you're going to have a candy bar and they're going to have Greg's chocolate cake, so working on making sure that you're staying hydrated throughout the day. And I love that idea that I've used that with some clients before too, that Katrina said about setting the alarm and making yourself think, okay, I need to get up. I need to go get some water. I need to come back. And thinking about, I'm going to have breakfast, lunch, dinner, and, if they want to have snacks in there, whatever, every person is different. So it just depends on that. but instead of just grazing throughout the day, because we know that that's probably not going to be a good choice for people. That would be my suggestion. And also just getting up and moving, as we talked about earlier in the beginning of this discussion. That is another thing, getting up every hour, even if it's just to stretch a little bit, open up the chest, get some deep breaths in, because we're all sitting in front of the computer, head forward, rounded over. So let's open that all back up. And if you can get on the little trampoline and jump or walk around your den, whatever it is, let's keep those alarms going off to remind us of what to do throughout the day.
Katrina?
Yeah, I think it's important to make sure that if they're not wanting to go back to the gym, which that's kind of a separate issue, I think it's important that they have some fun at home, that they mix it up, maybe trying different formats if they want to, work out with a video or Zoom or something, or if they're doing something at home themselves, that they have fun ideas. So, I'll have them, be playful with the ball, and like play catch with themselves between their hands and their feet, or, rolling on it and getting some nice stretching and having some fun with it and getting a little more playful. If their kids are at home as well, getting them to actively like, hey, let's go outside and play volleyball or, something with their children. So then you've got the relational thing and they've got some movement and stuff. And then, they got some vitamin D too. So mixing it up and having fun.
I love that. Greg?
I think the biggest thing, especially since so many people had never worked from home before and now they're doing it, a lot of people are going to realize that when work is home, you never leave work. And that's really hard for some people. And I know a lot of people who are now remote workers, but they're going somewhere else to work, because the problem is, like working out at home, now I'm going to be doing something, let me get back to this email and things like that. So I think it's really important to create a regimen and create boundaries. And like I kind of mentioned before, like if you don't want to go back to the gym, whether it's working with someone virtual or having your own workout space, having a space that you can step away from your desk and go into, whether it's a backyard, a garage, or just an area of your room that that's your workout space. And when you go into that, leave the cell phone outside, leave the computers outside, put the music on and do what you need to do, whether it's meditate, stretch, workout, whatever you need to, but have that in your day. So like regimens go a long way, and just know, okay, I know on Tuesday at 5:30, this is my workout time. This is me time. And on the other side of it is, if you're working remotely, you probably live with a computer or a cell phone constantly. So going to bed, we talk about sleep and we talk about stress and things like that. Like, try not to have your cell phone with you. And I am notorious for going down Instagram wormholes or YouTube wormholes. And it's so like I'm getting better. I'm sure we all do it at some point, but it's just like having those boundaries and understanding where work ends and your home life begins. And that is really hard for a lot of people, especially if they've never done it before.
I love that. And get a pet. You guys at home, get a pet. You have to walk that pet. That is one of the best things that happened during the pandemic, was everybody got a dog. I know myself, we got a dog from a housewife. Don't want to talk about it. We walk it all the time. It was the best activity. We get to know our neighbors. Once again, commuting, you guys. And I find a lot we're running out of time, but there's two things. A lot of pre-made meals coming out right now where you can do it at home and you chop it up and everything is given to you in a box. I don't know how I feel about it. I would love to hear how you guys feel about it, but we have 2 minutes. And second of all, with the cost of food going up, I think it's going to be interesting seeing what happens with people as well regarding nutrition and food costs, because it is rising. And it's interesting, though, the things that are not rising are a lot of the stuff that we're asking to eat. Meat, steaks, and all the red meat is very expensive right now. Our lean meats are not expensive. So it's going to be interesting, I think, what we see happens down the road with that. Quickly, because we have basically 2 minutes. What do you feel about those boxes that come to your house where you prep and meal prep and all the good stuff? I think it can go into our neat calories, could it not? Greg, what do you think of those meals?
I don't know if it's a neat calorie as a thermogenic effect of food, but anyway, I'm hit or miss on them. And it's kind of one of those, like, I get really busy and I know I'm not going to cook. So I have gone to the box meals before. I try to do local. That way I know it's a little bit fresher. And for cost, I always try to do farmers markets when I can. And also connecting with your partner and making sure it's a shared goal.
Love it. What do you feel about them, Amber?
Because of everything I know with nutrition and how I coach my nutrition, the ones that I have tried have not been very balanced as far as what I'm looking for to, get my macronutrient numbers in. So you have to be smart and be able to finagle the meals a little bit.
Katrina?
Yeah, I think it's important if the client is not going to cook and that's just a line, I would rather them do some of the healthier ones and, like Amber said, with appropriate macros than do something junky, so I'd rather them do that than maybe go out to food, get restaurants where they're going to have all the vegetable oils on everything and such every day of the week. So not great, but it's that good, better, best kind of thing.
What I find is the people that get those box meals, because it takes so much chopping, they drink wine when they do it. And there we go, the loophole. You guys, we are out of time. I hope the people listening in learned as much as I have. I hope you felt the passion and the professionalism from my beautiful panel. I'm going to have them type in how you can get a hold of them. I want everybody to wish our beautiful Katrina a very happy birthday tomorrow. Happy birthday. I hope it's a magical day. I want to thank Greg so much for being here today. Amazing job, Amber. Always good to see you. Katrina, always amazing. You guys at home, I hope this helped you. Don't forget, it will be recorded. We're here every Tuesday. I want to thank everybody for coming in and joining it. Have a great night, everybody. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Enjoy your night.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Have a good night. Thank you, guys. Happy birthday, Katrina.
Happy birthday, Katrina.
Thank you. Bye.